Well, hello. Welcome, everyone, to Soul Sessions podcast. I am here with my beautiful friend Hayley on this magic 2222 portal day. Hayley is a Reiki practitioner, and she reads oracle cards and does various divination tools.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a work in progress, but yes, I am dabbling in all of that for sure.
Aren't we all a work in progress?
Yeah.
Yes. Hey Jenny. Hey, we're glad to have you in here. Hey. So Hayley, is there anything else that you would like us to know about you?
I don't know. Like I said, I'm dabbling in all of that. I'm working really hard to learn and master tarot.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily, I work with oracle cards right now, or something similar to that we'll get into, pogs and charms and that kind of thing. Reiki wise, I have gotten to level 2 in my training. My master training is supposed to start in March, so I'm excited for that. I don't know what else. I'm exploring mediumship. I'm trying to learn how to read the Akashic records. You name it, I'm probably like, oh yeah, I want to do that. But
if we had more time, do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
For all the different modalities that we want to learn. And I wanted to let everybody know we're going to be keeping an eye on the chat too. So if you have any questions or comments, we'll be trying to be mindful of that at the same time. Hey Carolina. I am very excited to hear about pogs with you because I had not heard that term before you had told me. And so I'm very excited for that. And the charms, I'm really excited to hear about that as well. So the first question that I'll ask you is, how did you get into Reiki? Or could you explain what Reiki is, maybe for the people who are new to that?
Reiki is a form of energy healing. I got into it very weirdly.
Okay.
I actually, like, this is how little I knew about it. When I started pursuing it, I thought it was pronounced Reiki. Like, I knew nothing. I knew it existed. That's about it. I was on TikTok, like a lot of us, seeing all these book recommendations. So I had this huge Amazon cart, and I was going through it with my pendulum, like, I can't buy all of these books, but maybe this will help me figure out what ones to get. And I crossed off a bunch of things, but I was still getting the indication that there's something else I needed to look for. So I was clicking on different books, and you get like the recommended based on people that bought this or whatever. And it eventually led me to, I have it here actually.
Oh yeah, that'd be great in case anybody else wants to start.
This book, The Art of Psychic Reiki. And at the time, and well now too, psychic is what I was really, really interested in. So I was like, oh, okay. Or the description of my pendulum was insistent that I get it. So I got it. The reason it's called The Art of Psychic Reiki, the Lisa Campion, the author, she's actually my Reiki master, my teacher, believes that Reiki opens up a lot of psychic abilities. So she, within teaching Reiki methods in her book, also gets into a lot of like psychic protection and that kind of stuff. So I got the book and I started reading it, and I got interested in actually practicing Reiki, but I needed to get an attunement so that I could actually channel the energy. And I live in a very rural area. There's basically no one to do that through. Okay. So I started looking online. And I was kind of lost when I was looking online, like who to get it through. So I just ended up Googling the author of the book, like to see if I could ask her if she would attune me, even because she does mention in the book that she does distance attunements. And she had just around that time built this whole website. And I think within days of me finding the website, was going to start offering the courses online, even though the book was like 2 years old. So it was like divine timing all the way. So I've taken,
and your intuition, like
level.
Picking up on that she was going to be starting to do attunements.
Yeah, so it was perfect. So I've taken both courses actually through her and gotten the attunements through her. So that was awesome.
What a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your intuition like leading you the way, right? And like you trusting in yourself and the messages you were getting, because your trusty pendulum there was like, I know who you need to see. Yes, that's a beautiful book as well, the cover art on that. So divine timing, definitely, somebody said. So do you feel like working with Reiki has helped you with your psychic abilities?
It's hard to say precisely because I've been doing so many things at once this whole time that I've been trying to, like learn and
Mhm.
get in tune with everything. I do think that my strongest clair is probably clairsentience, and I think that is due to Reiki. I think that
Mhm.
I don't know if that like Reiki is my ultimate path, but maybe that really did help me like feel that energy. Yeah, I otherwise I can't say. I mean, I know a lot of people say that it does for sure. The author, her big thing is people will go into learning Reiki that don't have any interest in growing their psychic abilities, but it just kind of clicks on for them. And then it kind of
Mhm.
scares them away from practicing Reiki. So she really wants people to be prepared.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand that
Yeah.
totally. Because once you start working with your chakra system and you start opening up these upper three ones, then you start getting like stuff come out of nowhere, and yeah, it can be a little spooky. So that's awesome that she's like preemptively helping people. Like he usually thinks if I come through.
Yeah.
Yes. Um. So with the Reiki, um, do you really like working with chakras like individually with people, or do you work as their energy body like as a whole, which is kind of like one and the
Primarily,
same, but
I've only so far worked with friends and family. So that has been mostly like chakra based, or if there's some pain somewhere, like trying to treat that. But yeah, I'm kind of still exploring what my method, like if I had a one-on-one client, like what that exactly would look like. It's still in development for me, but
yeah, and like you said, it might be a complementary gift to something else you're going to be doing as
true. Yeah.
well. Yeah. When I started doing the Akashic Records, it was taking a lot of my own personal energy. And so I found Reiki and I started coupling it.
Oh,
And
that's great.
it complements one another beautifully, and I don't have to exert as much as my energy. So it just complements so many things so well.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about any, because we're talking about psychic abilities, if you've had any paranormal experiences or how your mediumship skills, I know you said you're dipping your toes into that, how that is going.
Um, let's see. I guess that kind of starts, I mean, not that I'm some grand medium right now, but paranormal stuff kind of goes back to childhood for me. I like in reflection now that I'm learning this stuff, I'm like, oh, okay.
Mhm.
I used to be horrified even when I was of age, 12, 13, 14, maybe even 10, I don't know, to be home alone or
Mhm.
awake at night because I was always sensing energies around me as a kid, and it scared the living daylights out of
Yeah.
me. Maybe if I hadn't been scared of it, I don't know if that would have been like the grand awakening then, and I would have these amazing psychic skills now, which would be awesome. But I was very terrified of all of that as a child. My family also, well, premonition dreams are pretty prevalent in my family. I've had a few of those myself. We also have on my mom's side, there almost everybody gets dreams when somebody's going to pass away. They like come and say goodbye to you, type of thing. And then one of the biggest experiences I or have had is when I was in high school. A friend of mine unalived, and as that was happening, I was at school. I hadn't talked to him for a couple of weeks because his parents, he was kind of in trouble and they had kept him home. A whole bunch of stuff was going on. But I was sitting in one of my classes and I suddenly couldn't, I felt like I couldn't breathe. Sitting in one of my classes and I suddenly couldn't, I felt like I couldn't breathe. And I guess I need to go home. And so I went to the office to call my mom to come get me. And while I'm in the office staff were talking about some student, they aren't naming him, had done that and where he lived, but the location they're describing is not what I would consider his neighborhood. So I'm like, but I just somehow I knew like it was him. I just knew. Um, and then my mom arrives to pick me up. So I'm walking out of the school, and his ex-girlfriend, my friend's ex-girlfriend, and her best friend passed me in the hallway because apparently they had been called to the office to be told the news. And when I get out to my mom's car to tell her like all this stuff that's going on, she tells me that she had to pull over for the ambulance to go to his actual neighborhood on her way to get me. So it's like, it all just, I was like, wow. I went home and I waited like an hour, and then I called the ex-girlfriend's friend. I'm like, did this happen? I mean, she answered the phone crying. We knew, but still had to be like, did this? It was wild. So then I spent a lot of my teen years like screwing around with tarot, wanting to reach out to him and stuff. But anytime like the energy would shift or whatever, I'd freak out like, no, I can't handle it. Blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, in the last year that I've been trying to grow these gifts and everything, when I started meditating heavily and stuff, he was one of the first interactions that I had with spirit, and he came and like showed me some memories that we shared that I'd completely forgotten about, and all kinds of stuff. So it was really awesome. But
yeah, well, I'm so sorry about your friend passing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about your friend passing. But what like a beautiful gift though that he came through from the other side to like help you develop your spiritual, right? It's better than just random spirits. I would imagine. Yes. I want to ask you some questions about that. Somebody, Carolina in the chat asked if you could hold that book up, the Reiki book, one more time so she could take a screenshot. That's a beautiful, beautiful book.
Good, probably, yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like children can sense energy bodies and like spirits a lot easier sometimes than adults because they're like so open?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that seems to have been my childhood experience anyway, not that it was defined. I also, my youngest son, he's 14 and he has very severe autism. He's nonverbal, but despite a heavy sense of disability with him, like he really needs pretty much round the clock care and supervision for like daily life skills and stuff. At the same time, he has a profound intelligence that came from who knows where. And so I think there's even well, I'll get to that, but yeah, he's tapped in. Somebody's teaching him stuff. The kid can't get himself dressed, but he can do like algebra and tell time without being taught to do so. He also, we've had instances, it's hilarious, where, you know, like it hits around his bedtime and we'll make a plan to like, I don't know, do something because it's just easier when he's not in our care to do stuff. And it's like he senses it and he's awake with anticipation, or I don't know, even leading up to special events, like after it happens, you're like, he knew the whole time. He's very in tune, very extremely in tune. My older son also has some of the premonition dreams, so I'm like, welcome to the club.
I love that. And you said it runs in your family, the premonitions and the dreams.
Yeah. I don't know where it started. I did try asking some older relatives a few months ago and I didn't really get anywhere. From my great grandmother who died when I was a baby, I inherited some really old like dream interpretation books. So I think definitely she was onto something, but she was an immigrant from Yugoslavia, so it's really hard to like track down like further beyond her to find out more about our family or anything.
Are you doing anything as far as like dream interpretation, or do you interpret your own dreams a lot?
My own for sure. I've definitely looked at those books and other sources. It's not something I've hugely dived into yet, but another interest.
Yeah. Okay, so since you psychic medium, do you have any advice for people who want to maybe get into it but are like a little nervous about it?
Okay. Well, the nervous.
That's a big. I know it's a big question.
But this is okay. So it's really only been a year. So if anyone right now is impressed by anything I'm saying, this is just a year of me taking this on in my spare time. Like anyone can do it. I do think people maybe are more naturally inclined in some cases, but we all have spiritual gifts. You just have to learn how to use them. Literally a year ago, I was scared to meditate because I was so horrified of what I was going to see. Like, it's ridiculous.
That's cool though that you already knew you were like very powerful.
Yeah, but getting over that fear is a lot. I don't, the thing that everybody says, and it resonates true to me too now, is we have a physical vessel. Everything that you're going to interact with in spiritual terms does not. So you have more power than them. There's some hangups and some messes you might get yourself into, but there's forms of protection, there's forms of cleansing energy and everything else. So it's not a life or death scenario that we like to make it out to be.
Yes, I agree.
Development wise, meditation is like number one for sure. And then I don't know, read books. I've read so many books. I've taken a few courses, even just watching TikTok lives like this one, like learning little tips and tricks from other people. There's tons of stuff out there.
Oh, that's great. I have my son is psychically inclined and can read energy bodies, right? And he is a little spooked sometimes about it, right? And I said, hey, we don't have negative spirits in our home. Like, we have positive spirits. They're just hanging out, vibing, right? Like, I've cultivated a very safe space. But I told him, like, you have power over your energy body and what you see and hear, right? So if you clearly say to them, I'm not ready for that, I don't want to hear that, or you just ask them to dial it back, like, you can change how those things are interacting with you.
Yeah.
Have you found that in your case?
Yeah, and I was taught Ashlight Star is a great resource. She's here on TikTok if people want to look her up. I followed her early on, and I learned a lot of like statements, I guess, intentions to set. Things like, you know, setting up your own protective bubble and everything. And so part of my protections is I say that nothing can enter my space that has malicious intent, or I have not given permission to enter my space, and that it has to be, you know, for my highest and greatest good. So that gives me a lot of security as well, that I've said no, you're not coming in.
Right.
I was also gonna say this is probably my favorite book for psychic development that I've come across. It does have the more witchy approach. It's The Psychic Witch by Matt Oren. Hi, Ash. This is a really good book for all things psychic development. And I did just read this one, Beginning Mediumship Workbook by Carol Ann. The majority of the book is very beginner friendly. I would recommend some background knowledge coming into it because there's things that are left out. It's a pretty thin book. But towards the end, it has really good, a few methods and things to try to connect with spirit more, which I haven't come across in a lot of stuff that I've seen. It's just kind of do it. Well, some of us would like a little bit of a how-to.
Carolina, are you asking to see the Psychic Witch book again? I think, would you mind holding the Psychic Witch book up again? Yeah. So people can screenshot if they want. I love the owl on there and the eye up top as well.
It's really pretty.
So some external things that I have found that help with spirits as well, like if that's something that you're not ready to do, but you're feeling like they're, you know, coming in, is like sage or like protection sprays. Like, there's a lot of crystals. We're going to talk more in depth about crystals here in a minute. There's crystals. There's a lot of different things that you can utilize that are outside of yourself as well. Is there a favorite one that you have used, or even like sound clearing?
I do a little bit of sound clearing, but I'm still trying to fine tune my use of the sound bowl. I can't quite get the good resonance yet. My youngest son that I was talking about earlier has like stared off into space and looked concerned before, and I just went full mom mode and like clapped my hands like, get out, whatever it is, you're not welcome here. Protection crystal wise, I use a lot of like obsidian, black tourmaline. Pretty much all the dark crystals are very protective, and then selenite for, you know, cleansing energy, that kind of thing. What else? I've learned a few sigils that I use that are protective. Yeah, and I have some sprays and oils as well.
How
and
did you get?
It's great. Candles.
Yeah, incense. It's so funny you did that because my incense just like wafted my face as you're saying that. I go through mad amounts of incense like all day long. How did you get into crystals now that we're, segueing into that?
I was trying
Crystals now that we're, segueing into that.
I was trying to think about that the other day. I was like, what? I think it was probably from TikTok, like, oh, things. I'm like, I'm going to buy that and I'm going to be a psychic. Probably the downfall is like, ooh, this will help me. Oh, that'll help me. And then, eventually they're shiny pretties and you just want to collect them all like Pokemon. But
I'm gonna have that stuck in my brain forever, like all my little Pokemon.
But they have a lot of healing. Healing. I don't know. They're healing. They are fun to look at. They're just great.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite crystal?
Probably amethyst because I love purple.
What
about you?
Is my favorite. Amethyst is my favorite too. It's good for like so many things. Like it helps with like anxiety and like calming, mental clarity, like for your immune system, psychic abilities, like tap into the etheric fields. It's an all around great one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which ones do you feel like that you work with most often? Or like what would be a good starter pack for people that want to get into crystals? If they're interested.
Definitely get either some obsidian or black tourmaline for sure for that protection aspect. I'm wearing an obsidian ring right now.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I pulled out some like things. I don't know.
I
thought
love
show
how
and tell was
prepared
gonna
you
be
are.
great.
You have like all the resources.
Like I got this obsidian Buddha head. I use that when I'm practicing Reiki. Let's see. I don't have tourmaline with me. Actually I do. No, do I? I don't know. I have tourmaline and quartz, a bracelet. Let's see, bracelets. I have malachite. That's a really good one for like abundance. Super 7, which is amethyst, and some other crystals. Don't ask me to name them.
Okay, I've never heard of Super 7. I'm gonna have to check that
out. Blue tiger's eye, which I know tiger's eye itself is good for grounding. I couldn't tell you what the special property of blue tiger's eye is for. The tourmaline and quartz. Quartz is kind of like the amplifier crystal. Chrysocolla, which is a mix of malachite and something blue. Fluorite, which I think is a really good, I think that's a psychic one as well. Labradorite is another big favorite. That's really good for psychic protection and a whole bunch of other stuff. Iolite, I'm not 100% on the metaphysical properties of that one. I think this is blue lace agate. I couldn't tell you what it's for. To me, it looks like calming, like it's peaceful.
Very calming.
Smoky quartz, that's another protective one. Pre-night, I think it's a healing one. It's green. That's usually like a healing. And then this is kunzite, but I don't know the properties of that offhand. Basically, I was gonna say when we were talking about crystals, to me, like you can look up online. There's a whole bunch of books that are great resources. If there's a specific need that calls to you, like I need help with my heart chakra. Okay. Crystals, if you know the chakra colors, you can always go off of that too. That's an easy way to tell, like green's associated with the heart, get a green crystal. You can also look online or in books. There's tons of references about what crystals are good for. I generally, especially with my jewelry and stuff, just buy what I'm drawn to. I figure my body knows, my spirit knows what I need at the time. Did you want to? I got a whole pile of stuff here. I just brought. I don't know.
No. I love all the reasons that you shared. Like they're beautiful. I need to get on that level because I only have a couple here. I need to get as many as you have. You're probably like supercharged with all the crystals.
My crystal collection is ridiculous. I was telling Kennedy last night for Reiki, which mind you, I have not practiced with people I don't know. I have about an Easter basket size full of just crystals I want to use for Reiki. Here's one of them I pulled out. Like this is, I think, Amazonite. But I thought, oh, what better shape than a shell to work on the throat chakra? Like it's
I love
Little
it.
Mermaid throwback. I have lots of stuff like that. There's raw pieces. This is a citrine that I have that I really
Oh, that's
like.
beautiful.
Spheres, carvings. This is one of the first well, not one of the first, but one of my favorite carvings is
Oh, is that
a
a
chlorite
cobra?
snake. Yeah,
Yeah.
because one of my main guides is a snake, so you can get them for all different uses. I really actually started out with just tumbles because they're the
Hmm.
least expensive form, and I would carry them around in my bra, whatever works.
Same. Have like pockets full of crystals throughout the day. Someone asked if you have a favorite crystal shop, online crystal shop.
There's so many. Actually, shout out one of my friends, Cherie Mystic, just started selling crystals on TikTok lives. You could find her. Um, I've just looked at Etsy to see, what resonated with me. Mostly now, though, I do just watch crystal lives. It's like QVC for for witches or whatever. And I'll try and buy what draws me in. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of crystal sailors on TikTok.
If you
You
do
just gotta
go
find,
see,
definitely look for reviews so you can get
Mhm.
ethical things and legit. There's definitely fake crystals out there. So
If you do go see Cherie Mystic, anyone in here, she has great energy. Like great. If you want to buy
yeah,
from some
she's the
like very
sweetest.
lovely energy. Definitely recommend her. And you
I
can
think
always shoot
she's
one of us a message and we'll get you to her.
she's having a sale today. Actually, like I think it might be starting pretty soon here. I think her ad is Cherie, like SHAREE.mystic. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But
Yeah, you can probably type it in and find it. She's very sweet.
yeah.
I have gotten into watching crystal lives as well because I just like, even if I don't buy them, I just like being in there and watching them. It's like very healing, just even coming like through the screen, right? I just like Reiki, like remote Reiki. And my son walked in the other day and he was like, "What are you doing?" He was like, "You're watching Crystal TV?" And I was like, "Yes."
Yeah.
Yeah.
My husband was the one that told me, "Oh, it's like you're watching QVC." I'm like, "Go
Yes.
away."
And they're like all showing them like different angles. Yes. I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that for fun. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for showing us all the crystals too. So it kind of gives people an idea of what they might want. And I think that's like beautiful advice too, as far as if you're not sure, whatever part of your body that you're trying to heal, pick that crystal per that chakra.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. That's an easy way to go. I tell the people that all the time. Kennedy's lives, especially Kennedy, our friend, goes live and does Reiki and all the time. What should I get for this? What should I get for this? I'm like, match the color. Just do that.
Yep.
That's the easiest thing you could do.
Very easy to remember. And if you get like a white crystal too, white crystals are very cleansing, right? Like selenite. It's also good for up here for like the crown chakra too.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I'll go into metaphysical stores and I'll just ask spirit, which one of these should I go with? And like it'll call out to you with its like frequency and energy.
Yeah.
And then, like I pick around in the bowl and then pick the one that wants to come home with me.
Yeah. I've even watched lives where I'm like, I'm not gonna buy anything, but I just want to watch, and then something will come on the screen. And it's like, I'm like, I have to get that.
It's like it wants to come home with me. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you feel like how long have you been working with crystals?
Probably about most of the same like year that I've been on this path, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Do you feel like that you have kind of like built a relationship with them?
Um, I mean, I definitely have my go-to things, but I have so many, so many. It's ridiculous.
Crystal Queen. Yes, I love it. Speaking of
I know
crystals,
you've said that you're very in tune with your tools, right?
yes, I have really cultivated a relationship with crystals and then my tarot and oracle decks, and like I speak to them like they're consciousness orbs. And so they speak to me like while I am working with them, or even like outside of working with people. Like sometimes I'll have my whole table of crystals over here and I'll notice one is missing. And I can like hear it calling out to me from like the car, or when I left it in my pocket in the laundry room. Like I can feel when one's amiss. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time and energy putting my energy into them, and then learning and like downloading things from them as well.
That's awesome.
Thank you. As far as the tarot and oracle cards, I know you said you read. How did you get tarot and oracle cards? I know you said you read. How did you get into tarot and oracle cards? And maybe you could explain a little bit like the difference between tarot and oracle. I feel like I get that question a lot, and so another perspective would be great.
Sure. I mean, that was my chief interest. I as I joined TikTok, the algorithm, of course, figured out like, oh, you like witchy and occult stuff.
The algorithm will be real specific.
So I started, getting drawn. I've had a tarot deck since I was, I think, high school, junior high, that I messed around with like very occasionally. So it's always been an interest. But yeah, TikTok definitely stuck me in like, ooh, I want to learn how to do that. So I started buying decks, which, like my crystals, is an outrageous collection. But, let me use, I pulled examples. I'm all on this show and tell streak. Let's see. Oh, the deck I wanted to use fell. Well, I'll use something else. But tarot, most tarot decks, I wouldn't say all, most tarot decks have a very specific line of messages and form of art. They're interpreted differently by different artists and styles, of course, but there's a set, is it 72 cards, the major arcana and the minor arcana, and they're most of the time just the same across all decks. I have a few that have like a few extra cards that the artist added, but for the most part, and tarot's very specific. Like, how do I want to say this? Like it can tell you the energy going on in a very specific thing at that time. Like each card you can interpret, whether it's just a general message or whether it's for love, your spiritual personal path, or work related, depending on the reading. They have different meanings, and the reversal, of course, too. But oracle cards are a little more vague and require intuition. They have, okay, I'll show.
Yeah, sure. Yes, all show and tell. I love it.
So tarot cards, like, this is one of the first decks I bought just because I was so drawn to the art. Yeah, you have this one.
That's my one tarot deck that I have. I
love the art on this one.
Okay.
But yeah, so this is the first tarot deck I have, or I think I bought. But the guidebook for this is very tiny, and like a card, you're gonna get a couple sentences. Versus like this oracle deck is a lot smaller in size, but the guidebook is a lot more heavy duty. And if you go into the guidebook when you're giving an oracle reading, you're gonna, depending on the different deck, get meditation recommendations. You're gonna get, some of them even recommend crystals to use, actions to take, all kinds of stuff. They're more of a general like guidance. It's somebody giving you advice, whereas the tarot deck, how do I want to explain the difference? I don't know. Tarot's just much more specific, in my opinion. I think that's one of my hangups too with learning it, is I feel like I have really bad perfectionist streak, so I want to make sure I know every single interpretation of the tarot deck. And oracle, I'm just like, well, here's what I think it means, because it's kind of how oracle works.
Yep. I think that was a beautiful explanation. Like tarot is very specific per whatever that card message is. Like it's a little flexible, but for most part it's very specific. I read my tarot deck like an oracle deck. so I read off of it, like, you know, going on the pictures. But what I found, which is really funny, is that I have never read all the way through the tarot guidebook that it came with, but I've checked behind myself, and it was the exact same tarot meaning that was in there. I was like, oh, that's very spot on then. But I really like oracle decks because it just gives you a broader, like, scope, like you said, of like what is going on in a situation.
Yeah, for sure. I just have an easier, I think, again, the perfectionist streak. I just have an easier time if I don't have something weighing down on me, like, this is what it's supposed to mean. I don't generally use card spreads because I feel like they kind of force you into like a very limited scope to look at. Like, if I'm doing a reading for somebody, I just like to pull as many cards as I feel they need. It might be 3, it might be 23, but we're gonna get them all. And so I don't usually use spreads. I think that's why we were gonna get into that. Pogs I brought, in case people, I think a lot of people might not know what pogs are. I keep them in this, pogs are 90s thing, so they're in this small craft container.
That's super cute.
But I will show some of my pogs. Let's see.
Yes, and this is my first time seeing anything about pogs. I'm probably gonna have a bunch of questions to ask you. And hey, Casey, have you here too?
So like poison. This looks like an 8-ball that's an earth or a planet. This one says good hit Chucky, and it's some football players. They're just little discs with art on them. Traditionally, let me see if I have some slammers too.
Someone said we used
Don't
to
ask
collect
me that.
kits.
Yeah. So it's been a long time since I've played actual pogs, but if memory serves correctly, you would pile them up, and then you would kind of hit them with this slammer. It's a heavier, thicker, similar to a pog, but heavier and thicker. And whatever one's turned over, you would keep. And it became a problem in the 90s, at least. Like, we were playing them at school, but kids were getting in like fights over losing their pog collection.
Okay.
So they kind of got outlawed, and I think that led to like the trickle of them dying out. But I came across an Etsy listing where somebody had made pogs specifically for divination. I thought, oh, that's so cool. I love all things 90s. But then I remembered that I had pogs because a few years ago I had bought some off of eBay to just, I think I had like a 90s themed birthday party, and we played pogs. So it's like, I'll just pull those out and start reading them. And there's some of the most accurate readings I've done, I think, just because there's no guidebook, there's no preset meanings. I just pull the pogs out and I look at, you know, what the art's telling me or what my intuition's telling me and interpret it. And that's been my best tool, surprisingly. But
I love it. I also love that, you know, how children are very like magic and whimsy, and like we talked about, very open. I wonder if that's like why you connect with them so well too, because they kind of like take you back into that frequency.
Yeah.
Yes. How many pogs do you have?
Yeah. There's maybe, I don't know, 100-ish in there. I had most of those before from the party because I bought like a big lot. And then when I started reading the pogs, I'm like, oh, I need more pogs. So I think I bought like a couple newer ones on eBay. Like, somebody had Disney themed pogs for sale, and I'm like, what could be better to read than, like, you know, the tales from Disney stories? Those have very specific meanings. So I got some of those.
I love that. I was speaking of Disney, which is just side tangent, I was like super stressed out yesterday, like just with like all kinds of stuff. And I was like, you know what? I need to get back in like the childlike thought process where things are fun. And so I put on Hercules and The Lion King, and like I immediately like felt better, right? And so I love that they make Disney pogs. I might have to find me some to work with. So you read them like oracle cards, basically?
Yeah, basically just oracle cards without a guidebook. Just
yeah.
It's really freeing. And it serves. I was going to show these too. I don't need to, but I love all things 90s, so I get to tinker around with that. So I also bought like a That's So 90s tarot deck at one point. And like, let's see an example. Who's this? The Knight of Swords. We have Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Oh, okay. Of course you would pull out Sabrina the Witch.
I have a friend's tarot deck too. Like, I just have to be surrounded by my childhood, I guess.
I love that.
I also have, it's only the major arcana, but in the Pogs box, I have a Lisa Frank major arcana tarot deck, a little mini one.
I have been eyeballing a Lisa Frank deck. I've been thinking about it. I love Lisa Frank. So bright and like colorful. So are there any other what's the word I'm looking for? Divination tools. This is what I was thinking of. Are there more that you use?
So many.
I know you said
because yeah, pendulums. I brought one of those to show. I would assume most people watching this are familiar, but it's just
that's beautiful.
Usually it's a crystal. It's a labradorite one. It's usually a crystal on a chain, and you'll just it takes a practice to see how it works for you, because different swings can mean different things for different users or whoever you're getting the information from in some cases as well. But generally there will be a direction that the pendulum swings for yes and for no. They're a really fun tool to use. Like the first time I ever actually used a pendulum on my own, it was like, wow, this is all real, because I started, asking it things that I knew were true to test it. And then over time, I asked it things that I wasn't sure about and, listened to what it said or waited to see. And I don't think I've asked my pendulum a question that ended up being incorrect. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Once you start getting used to like reading your own energy and getting used to your intuition, like it can really be a beneficial like external tool.
Yeah. The Pogs also led me to pursuing charms, because they're pretty much charms. The same.
That's what I wanted to ask you more about. What do you have for charms?
Okay. I'm not a minimalist by any means.
Prepared is what we'll call it.
So charms, they don't. Okay. So a lot of people. Here's one. A lot of people, when they think of charms, think of these little, metal pieces that you could use for jewelry or whatever. That's primarily what I have. But like many others, I have like seashells in here. I have smaller crystal pieces, moons.
Oh, nice.
Different things like that. And the way I've used them so far is I cast them onto a mat. Mm-hmm. And so let me see if I make sure I hold it up right. So this mat has, different categories like finances, trouble, friendship, etc. And then I cast it onto the mat and kind of interpret what the charm means to me in that area. It's also very intuitive, like the Pogs, so I enjoy doing that. What else can I say about this? I also have dice. I have divination dice. I haven't done a ton with them, but I enjoy them. I actually will roll a dice usually with the Pog readings to determine how many Pogs to pull out. I also, in my charm thing, have runes. I have yet to master all the meanings of the runes, but I have a rune set, which they have.
Runes. Okay, I have a friend that's really into runes. He loves the symbolism.
They have There's lots of, there's so many. I just took a class a couple weeks ago, ribbon divination, which is basically pulling ribbons out of a bag and then using like the way they lay on whatever surface that you're working on, and then color theory to read energies with those, which is pretty interesting too. There's so many things. I'd still like to learn even, reading cards just with a regular card deck.
Yeah. I have a friend that does that just with like a regular deck, and she's really into like numerology. But she was showing me, like, how do you read those? Yes. Somebody asked that they are having a little trouble connecting with their pendulum, and if you have any tips on what they could do with that.
I would definitely cleanse it. Maybe that would be a helpful start. Just smoke cleanse it or put it on selenite or whatever else, just get any stagnant energy off of it. And then what a lot of people do with these various divination tools to connect with them better is they'll carry them around on their person, like spend more time with it, get it into your energy and aura. You could even put it in your pillowcase or near your bed and sleep next to it. Just spend more time with it so it's more connected to you.
I even suggest doing, let me get mine, sleeping with it in your pillow. Like that's a great way because we're in the astral realms when we're sleeping. And so you can connect with it even on a deeper level, or like speaking to it as well, like treating like it's its own consciousness form. So mine, this is a rose quartz one. So mine, when I started doing it, I programmed it to go this way for yes, and then this way for no, and then I would ask it yes or no questions just to start out with, like before getting into like more like esoteric, you know, questions. And just start practicing with yes and no.
Yeah, mine does the forward and backward, kind of like nodding, basically, like back and forth for yes and side to side for no. But it was funny, I was using it the other day to do something for my son, and yes, it was my same pendulum, I'm using it, but yes for him was spinning in a circle. I'm like, oh, okay, good to know. So that was interesting.
It's so funny that because go ahead.
No, I was just it made me think of there's another user on here, Liker of Words. She puts out really great like guiding content, and one of the things I learned from her is to use your body as a pendulum. I think other people might call it muscle testing. You stand up and basically will ask questions, and if you're like pushed forward, that's yes, and pushed no is back. But at the time I came across her video, I was doing something, I couldn't stand up, so I was just trying to practice it within my body, and now I use this all the time. I ask yes or no questions, and I'll get like a sensation in my forehead for yes, and a sensation in the back of my head for no. So it's another thing, you know, if you can't get a pendulum or don't want to use one, you could just use yourself for the same purpose.
I think that's great advice. I had somebody ask me, I get ringing sometimes in my left ear and sometimes in my right, and I want to know if it's my guides or me telepathically picking up on my boyfriend trying to send me messages, right? And I said, you can actually program your body as well, just like, you know, the divination tools. So you can say, if my left ear I want it to ring when it's my spirit guides, right ear if it's my boyfriend. So you're an oracle, so you can pull messages from whatever, the clouds, like bugs, hogs, and just interpret from those things.
I mean, ultimately, I would like to not use anything, so it just be me. I'm working on that, like with the Akashic Records readings and mediumship. Like, there's not a ton of tools to use for those things, but I think the tools are great too. I don't know, even if I could work without them, if I would stop using all the cards. I just love the art. They're pretty, they're fun to share, they're fun to look at. It also helps, you know, whoever you're reading for to also see the message, not just you telling them.
Yeah, it does give people a little more like, oh, okay, I have like a visual representation of something as well. Somebody asked, the reception is bad. Are we going to be posting this on YouTube? I will post it on YouTube later. So if anybody didn't catch like any parts of it, you can watch it. With talking about tools, I wanted to talk to you about shadow work. Everybody's most fun topic. Okay.
Right.
Especially with being like the magic portal today, right? So I know that's like about manifestation, but a lot of a manifestation is like letting go of things that are no serving you. So that might be behavioral patterns, like trauma, like all these different things. So what does shadow work mean to you, and why do you think that it's important?
That's
I know it's a big question.
My beginning exposure to shadow work actually was one of my friends here in my chat bought me a journal. I have that too. Bought me a journal off of Amazon that just has excuse me, has different prompts on each page. And I just worked through that. But yeah, like you were saying, whatever you're wanting to manifest, usually there's something probably from yourself that's kind of in the way of that. So it's great to do like shadow work, releasing before you work on manifesting. They pair brilliantly. But yeah, shadow work to me, prompts are usually what I work with. They're everywhere though. If you don't want to buy a pre-made book, they're all over online. I've posted some on my account. You can find them on Google, you can find them on Pinterest. There's shadow work prompts everywhere. The best like one-liner, I guess, that I have for shadow work is whatever triggers you, that's what you need to do shadow work on. I actually learned that from another TikTok user, Carolyn something. But yeah, if something triggers you during your day, then that's a great thing to do shadow work on and like break it down. Mm-hmm. Ask yourself why over and over and over again to get to like the base issue that caused that trauma or that trigger. So I use that. Like, I don't really use these daily prompts so much anymore, but if I am triggered throughout the day, okay, where did this come from? Why does this specific thing bother me? And then I'll try to figure out if I can get to that base issue and let it go.
I love when you said keep on asking yourself why, because I feel like trauma or like shadow work or like memories that are more difficult to go through, they work in layers. So there's like keep on going, like to get to the root of that thing, right? And I think sometimes like in spirituality, people think that like there's an end goal to shadow work. You're like, I'm going to conquer this. And same, because that's happened to me before too. And then it always cycles back around, but like at a deeper level.
Yeah. And like, I feel like, like this journal, these prompts, like there's some things that I don't want this to sound braggy or something. I don't have like a super traumatic past or anything. So I definitely have issues. I definitely have things to work on. But through just this one journal, which I don't know how many prompts it has, I was able to work through a lot of stuff that I've been carrying for years just because I never like stopped and questioned like, why are you bothered by this? Like some of them, one of them I did, it was what's something you haven't forgiven yourself for? I cried, but not because I was upset. It was how ridiculous it was that I was still carrying this around. When my kids were toddlers, we didn't have a lot of money. So my husband worked during the day and I worked at night, and we basically high-fived at the door when people had to work and switched off taking care of kids because we couldn't afford daycare and pay our bills. And I was also in college at the time. Like it was a lot. And I somehow made that most of that 2-year span through with very little sleep. But on one specific occasion, I got home and I started taking care of my kids. I had worked all night and I got home and I started taking care of my kids. I think I got them breakfast. I put them in their high chairs in front of PBS Kids, and I fell asleep on the couch like 3 feet away. And I woke up like 6 hours later and I felt so mortified and awful. They weren't crying. Nothing had gone wrong. They just sat there and hung out. I don't know how no one like woke me up in that whole time. But I felt awful about it. And then I'm doing shadow work on this, 10 years later. Like, why am I upset about this? I'm a human. Like, it's great that that's the least awful thing that ever happened during that time. So it was one of those things where I just started crying, like, how ridiculous I'm carrying pain around from this. So that's an example of one that I was able to like get to and release very easily. But there's others that are as I've mentioned a few times during this live, I have a big perfectionist streak. I really like to get things right and not be wrong, and I get embarrassed if I make mistakes, and that is a whole bunch of childhood stuff that I still need to work through. But
yeah, some of that stuff is like in there rooted very deeply, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're working on it, sometimes the universe will present it to you in many different ways, many different facets for you to work through it, right?
Yeah.
And that's beautiful that you were able to give yourself that gift of like releasing yourself from that traumatic experience. And even though it doesn't sound like a super traumatic experience. Like, you know, it's your kids. Like, you love them, you want to protect them and care for them. Falling asleep for 6 hours, right? Like, it's a big deal. Like,
Yeah.
that's great that you were able to, you know, forgive yourself for that.
Yeah.
And it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it's a big deal that you fell asleep.
It was a big deal at the time.
Big feels.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that is a warning I do want to give people when they're doing shadow work. Like, I've had some other experiences that I was crying, legitimate, sad, upset tears. Shadow work can be very triggering. So do it when you have time to deal with the emotions that's going to uncover. You don't want to be, I don't know, take time, like set it a time like you're meditating. Set aside time to do it like you're meditating. You don't want to just do it in your living room around your family and start having an anxiety attack or crying or whatever else.
Or right before work. Like,
yeah.
don't shadow work like before
yourself grace. Yeah.
Yes. And I think self-care after shadow work is like so very important. Like, you need to reward yourself for doing that too, so you don't get stuck in like the shadow work hole. And
this book too. Oh, sorry.
You're right.
The book too. After the prompts, this book on every single page, it wants you to list 3 things that you appreciate about yourself in your life. Which I think is a really good, like, get back out of that like traumatic mindset. Like, oh well, things are good now though. It's okay.
Yes. Oh, I'm gonna put you on the spot for a second. You ready?
Okay.
Okay, so can you, since we're on a manifesting day and it's do something nice for ourselves, okay, what are 3 things that you appreciate about yourself?
Oh, let's see.
Because we went deep into the shadow work hole there for a minute, so.
I don't give up easily at all. I'm a fighter of strength, I guess, inner strength. What else? The people I love, I would do anything for. And I don't know, I'm a kind, nice person. I care about people.
Oh, I loved all those. Yeah.
Your turn.
Okay, my turn. Okay. I love that I'm very compassionate. I've learned to be very compassionate to self, but I'm also very compassionate to other people. Like, I always trying to understand people from different points of views and maybe how external circumstances have caused things, you know, in their life. And just try and come from a very loving space. Second one is perseverance. When I set my mind to something, I do it. I figure out how to do it, or I ask enough people for help. Asking people for help, that's my third one, is being vulnerable. And so I always thought that vulnerability was a weakness, and like I had